Hey guys, how's it going today? Man, it's hot today, boy. Oof, it's like 92. It shouldn't be this hot, this time of year at least. But anyway, so what do I got now? I have a Ford Mustang, 0506 with a 4-liter overhead cam. Not my most favorite motor, that's for sure. Not an extremely reliable motor as far as I'm concerned. Well, actually, it's weird because I've seen these motors go 250,000 miles with no issues. I've seen them blow up in 100,000 miles. This particular vehicle has 160, 180 on it, and motor let go. I don't know what the maintenance record was of this vehicle beforehand. I have no idea. But let me show you what I got. I got most of it disassembled, but the motor's completely locked, and it's an automatic, so I got to try to figure out how to get it to rotate. If not, I'm going to have to pull the tranny out at the same time. Let me show you what I got. So here's the underside of it. I dropped the lower oil pan down. I took the steering rack out too, because it kind of blocks those front 3 bolts that go right here. But if you look, there you can see the motor is ventilated right there. And there's really not much to see because that's an upper pan. And the upper pan, see those bolts right there? Those are actually main cap bolts. So you got to take those out. It's a 4-bolt main setup if I'm not mistaken. But you got to take those out in order to get the pan down. Even though you got the pan bolts all the way up there, you got to take those out too to get that down. It's a weird torque spec, or way of torquing it, I should say, that goes along with this. So I got to try to like loosen this thing up so I can get it to rotate. This motor will not rotate over at all. So I tried it from up top. I can't get a breaker bar on it right now because it's just so much junk in the way. I can now go through this way, but anyway, let me just show you. That's the lower pan. You can see that's bearing material. Part of a connecting rod, maybe. Yeah. But actually, that's part of a piston. It's aluminum. That could be part of the block too. Who knows? No. Oh no, it's a cast iron block. It's a cast iron block. So what I'm going to do is let me see what I could take apart there, and see if I can't get this thing to start to rotate. What I'll do is I'm going to put a breaker bar on a crank, and I'll show you that it will not turn right now because I'm going to start to loosen stuff up and see if I can't get it to start moving. And there we go. I got a breaker bar on there. It's a little cockeyed at the moment, but let me back that out. Yeah. So if I try to go and tighten, you can see I'm shaking the whole vehicle. It ain't moving. And if I go backwards, I can actually, oh yeah, it breaks the bolt loose. So this thing is locked solid. So all right, let me see what I can do about dropping the pan down a bit and loosening everything up. Got the pan out. And there it is, and you can see there's some debris in there, crushed up bearings and material and stuff like that, and pieces of a piston. And nice enough when you come up here, I find this kind of cool. Oh, and I was wrong. Those bolts going through the pan, they just go into the cap bolts. I thought it was a 4-bolt main, but it's not. I don't know why I was thinking that, but whatever. Anyway, look up in there. How cool is that? Destruction. So they ran this thing out of oil. If you look, there's pieces stuck up in there too. And then over here, there's more destruction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen up the main cap bolts right there, and I'm going to try to let the crank, ease up a little bit and maybe come down a little bit, and hopefully it'll make it so I can actually rotate it. So let me get that loosened up and see what happens. Got all the main caps off. I figured I'd show you from this side. I didn't even realize that I didn't show you from this side. That's the rod all wedged up inside there. But yeah, I pulled all the main caps off. So now I'm going to stick a pry bar in there and see if I can't get this thing to come down a little bit. Obviously the motor's junk, so I don't care about anything. It's just a matter of getting the torque converter bolts out if I can. If not, I'm going to have to pull it out as an assembly, or pull the tranny out first from underneath. All right, let me mess with this a little bit, see if I can't get something to happen, and then I'll show you. All right, it's actually the next morning. So I wound up hitting that thing with an air hammer back and forth, and getting into where the rod was, and then I was hitting the counterweights on the crankshaft one way and the other. I eventually got it to start moving. Got it to start moving just back and forth. I took the rod off next to it, the rod cap at least. So I kept moving it back and forth. Eventually it broke free. and I was able to get that chunk of rod out, and a few other pieces fell out in the process. But let me just show you why I did what I had to do. So now, as you see, I actually broke the timing chain in the process. I hit it with an air chisel because I was just curious if something up there might have been holding it. I just wanted to just take that out of the equation. So, as you can see, there's damage to the crank itself. Like, that counterweight's got a pretty good hit in it. So that tells you that that was quite a bit of force. If you look back at that opening there where the starter goes, now as I rotate the motor there, you can see that's a torque converter bolt, or nut rather. And that's the whole reason for doing this, because I can't unhook the torque converter if I can't rotate the motor. So now at least I can get to everything I need to, you know, one to the other. But if you look up here, you'll see, there it is. And you see right next to it, that's the rod that I wound up having to disconnect. I had to cut one of the bolts in the process. But I mean, the rest of them, I don't know what happened. I think this thing stacked the bearing is what happened, but it'll go that far and then it's jamming up on a rod right next to it. So it's like I got to be careful when I'm doing this. So, but at least I can go back and forth and rotate it and get to the torque converter nuts. So this is what I got. That's what's left of the connecting rod. Here's part of the rod bolt that's supposed to come through a piece that's hanging down here, an ear that's hanging off. And here's what's left of the cap. Here's a cap off the one next to it. But as you see how dark in color this is? I mean, it's burned up. What happened more than likely was it probably spun that bearing for whatever reason. And here's what's left of the bearing. Now, it probably stacked the bearing. What does stacking the bearing mean? Now, the bearing sits like this in its respective place. And what happens is, if it gets stacked, if there gets enough wear in between, what happens is this thing will actually come free, shift, and then do this. Now, as you can see, the amount of clearance it takes up is astronomical. So that happens, it wedges in place, and you get this kind of a disaster. Yeah, forward right there. Like I said, these motors, they're hit or miss. I mean, I've seen them go several 100,000 miles with no issue. And other times I've just seen them do this. Well, not to this extent, but I've seen them blow up. Usually it's camshaft, timing chain, valve related. Very rarely have I actually seen a lower end issue, at least on my end. I'm sure some of you have seen it. But I mean, that's catastrophic damage. That's where the piston pin goes through. Here it is. This thing was actually hanging out. It was just up there and wedged in between. So, but you can actually see if you look. Look at the damage. Look how thick that metal is, and look at the damage. I mean, it crushed it. So this thing was at highway speed, and he said that. He said he was on the highway, and it just came to a stop. And I'm sure, had he lowered his radio, he would have probably heard it making noise. He had to have had a light on something. This doesn't just happen. It's very rare. It's not like it's a race car. It's a 4-liter, and it's got no modifications. So, turn your radio down. Listen to your car. It's telling you something. So anyway, that's it. Yeah, that's it for this video. So I'm going to get these converter nuts out, and I'm going to yank this motor out. I want to show you the motor that I got. I got this from a place that we know, that we deal with. Usually we'll buy a vehicle and do it that way. But we got this motor right here from another shop that we know. This one actually has 80,000 miles or 78,000 miles, something like that. He didn't clean this. This is how it came out of the vehicle. He was going to fix the vehicle for himself and decided, you know what, he had enough projects, so he'll sell us the motor. So he gave us a good deal on the motor. I mean, that motor's clean. And you can see he disconnected it the right way. He pulled everything out. He didn't cut harnesses. He didn't cut nothing. He pulled everything out the right way. So I like that. Okay, oh, one other thing I meant to mention. This type of an intake, all vehicles nowadays use them. Been, you know, with fuel injection, it's been like that for a long time. Here is the intake that I took out. You never want to reuse this type of an intake. In the case of catastrophic damage, like what we had with this vehicle, in the case of catastrophic damage, if it happened and stuff blew up, like the piston blew up on this one, what can happen is particles or pieces from the piston can actually get thrown up through an intake port and get lodged up inside the intake. You put this intake back on, you go down the road, all of a sudden that stuff becomes free and it gets sucked back down into the new motor, you destroy the motor. I've seen it. I've seen it happen. When I worked at Chrysler, I've seen it. I saw it happen on a 3.7, yeah, 3.7 V6, and I seen it on a 4.7, and I also saw it. I saw it on a 5.9, which was kind of odd because on a 5.9, the 5.2 and 5.9 motors, and even the 3.9, at the bottom of the intake, there's actually a plate. You can unbolt the plate, and you can see the whole inside of the intake. You can clean it. So, why the person didn't do it like this was done at another shop, and it came to us for warranty. Yeah, like we have to go through certain steps when we do things, otherwise the warranty claims would get bounced. But anyway, if we did it under warranty, or we sold the person the motor, and we didn't do that, we didn't clean the intake, or we didn't put a new intake on, we'd be responsible for it. But another shop, it's okay, they'll warranty it. That's how it works. But anyway, enough of that rant. So anyway, yeah, if you get a catastrophic engine failure, replace the intake. Replace it. You're just asking for trouble if you don't. So, all right. Anyway, that's it. Hope you got something out of that. If you did, hit that like button. If you could, please subscribe. All right, guys. Have a great day. Keep wrenching.